Some of us spend 60, 70, even 80 years trying to forget something we never truly faced. One moment, one heartbreak, one terrifying day, and even decades later, it lingers. In our choices, in our health, in the quiet corners of our minds we try not to visit too often. You're not weak, you're not broken, you're responding to something real. Today on Aged and Confused, we are unpacking how just one trauma can echo through a lifetime and what you can do about it, no matter how long it's been. Let's start with what trauma actually does to your brain. According to Dr. Bessel Kolk, one of the world's leading trauma researchers, trauma isn't stored as a regular memory. Instead, it fragments, gets trapped in the body, and distorts your sense of time. The past feels like it's happening now. In The Body Keeps the Score, Dr. Kolk describes how trauma rewires the brain's alarm system. The amygdala becomes hypervigilant. You're always scanning for danger, even if none is there. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, which helps you regulate emotions and make decisions, goes offline under stress. You might say, I knew better, but I couldn't help myself. That's not a character flaw, it's a neurological response. A 2007 study in Psychiatry Research Neuroimaging showed that PTSD patients had significantly reduced hippocampal volume. That's the brain region linked to memory and emotional control. It shrinks in response to chronic stress and trauma. That's why it's hard to focus, hard to trust, hard to let go of something that happened 30 years ago. It's not that you're stuck in the past is stuck in you. Now here's the part that really hits. Trauma does not just change how you feel, it changes how you live. A massive study called the Adverse Childhood Experiences, ACEs study, conducted by the CDC, and Kaiser Permanente, found a direct link between early trauma and long-term health outcomes. People with just one or two ACEs, things like emotional neglect, parental divorce, or abuse, were significantly more likely to develop chronic illnesses like heart disease and diabetes, depression and anxiety disorders, substance abuse problems, and even cancer. And those with 4 or more ACEs, the risk of suicide was 12 times higher. That's not just data, that's lives. Here's another study. In 2014, the Journal of the American Medical Association published findings showing that people exposed to trauma had higher levels of inflammation in the body years later, something tied to everything from arthritis to Alzheimer's. You might think, I've moved on. But if your body is still sounding the alarm, you haven't really left the battlefield. Even if the trauma was one single event, one accident, one loss, one betrayal, it can throw your entire nervous system out of alignment. Here's the thing most people do not talk about. Trauma doesn't fade with age. Sometimes it gets louder. A 2020 study in the Journal of Aging Studies found that older adults who had unresolved trauma were more likely to experience loneliness, irritability, or emotional numbness, difficulty forming new relationships, and even cognitive decline. Trauma can mimic dementia. It can look like memory loss or confusion, when really it's the brain pulling back into survival mode. And sometimes, retirement brings these feelings to the surface. You finally have time to reflect, and suddenly, the ghosts you kept buried start walking back into the room. Even decades after the event, trauma can hijack your sense of safety and control. But it doesn't have to stay that way. So how does one trauma affect your daily life? Let's be honest, it can shape everything. You might constantly doubt people's intentions. You might stay in bad relationships out of fear, or push good people away because you're waiting to be hurt. You might numb out with food, alcohol, overworking, or isolation. And because we often don't recognize trauma for what it is, we call it other things. I have a bad temper. I'm not good with people. I'm just not affectionate. But maybe you're just trying to protect yourself. According to Dr. Judith Herman, a pioneer in trauma therapy, the core experience of trauma is disempowerment and disconnection. The healing process must be about reconnection with others, with your body, with your story. Let's talk about healing, because trauma is not a life sentence. Here are research-backed ways to recover, no matter how much time has passed. 1. Trauma-informed therapy. Therapies like EMDR, eye movement desensitization, and reprocessing have been shown to reduce trauma symptoms in just a few sessions. A 2012 study in Frontiers in Psychology showed EMDR was more effective than standard talk therapy for many trauma survivors. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, also helps rewire thought patterns and reduce hypervigilance. Find a therapist who specializes in trauma. Ask questions. You deserve the right fit. 2. Somatic healing. Your body holds the score. Somatic experiencing, developed by Dr. Peter Levine, focuses on releasing trauma physically from the nervous system. No digging through memories, just noticing and moving through sensations. Yoga, Tai Chi, and breathwork can also calm your vagus nerve, the core of your body's rest and digest system. 3. Writing and journaling. Expressive writing, especially about emotional experiences, can reduce symptoms of anxiety and depression. Dr. James Pennebaker's research at the University of Texas showed that even 15 minutes of writing a day can make a difference in healing. 4. Support groups. Whether it's in person or online, being in a room, virtual or physical, with people who understand trauma is life-changing. It reminds your nervous system, I'm not alone, I'm not crazy, others have survived too. 5. Self-compassion and boundaries. This one sounds soft, but it's not. Learning to speak gently to yourself, to stop over-apologizing, to rest without guilt, these are acts of radical healing. Set boundaries with people who re-trigger your trauma. You don't need their permission to take care of yourself. You may not have asked for that trauma, but you do get to decide what happens next. You can rewrite the story, not by pretending it never happened, but by becoming the kind of person who gets to heal anyway. You are never too old to begin again. You are never too damaged to matter, and you are not alone. If this video helped you feel seen, leave a comment. Even just a heart emoji. It tells the algorithm and the community, I'm here, I understand. And please subscribe to Aged and Confused for conversations about the things nobody warned us about after 50. Let's heal loud, let's talk real, let's grow old with purpose.